Chapter 1 Daxuan Ming. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Daxuan country, out in the sticks of Cangzhou County, Cangzhou, the sky was gloomy. In Xianxia city, about all there was to look at in a rundown courtyard was an old tree, and some workout gear lying around. A young guy, maybe 17 or 18, wearing thin green clothes and with kind of a pretty boy face, was practicing some fancy sword moves. He was surprisingly good at it. Then he heard the system chime in his head, and he stopped, putting his sword away and sighing. 3 blades of the wind, mastered. Not bad for me. Even without the system's help, I'm pulling this off. Ming felt his confidence growing. He figured he actually had some talent. But then he thought about those legendary geniuses, and realized how far he had to go. Sigh. As he sighed, memories flooded back. He'd been here 2 months. Unlike your typical chosen one, he wasn't dealing with broken engagements, face-slapping rivals, or girls lining up at his door. Life was pretty boring, no big adventures. The guy whose body he'd taken over wasn't exactly a powerhouse. He'd barely started learning martial arts. Back in his old life, with that kind of strength, he might have been a YouTube star or a special ops soldier. But here, he was a nobody. This world was massive, and martial arts were huge. Even the great Xian Empire where he was now was just a tiny corner of it all. Some of these martial arts masters could even live forever. And Ming. He wanted to be invincible, to live forever. Too bad he was drawing a bad hand. In a world like this, strength was everything. With strength, you could get anything. The next best thing was connections. Even if you were weak and untalented, you could still stay alive. Plus, you could get your hands on the resources you needed to get stronger. If you had neither of those, at least you needed some talent. That way, you could work your butt off and become a force to be reckoned with. But if you had nothing, you were just another weakling, an ant. Unfortunately, after he crossed over, he was just some small-time constable in a backwater town. Low cultivation, so talent, total cannon fodder material. Sure, the guy had come from a martial arts family, but not a big one. And his parents had died young. Because he wasn't that talented, nobody thought much of him. So, to avoid getting hassled and having his inheritance stolen, he'd gone off to try his luck in the martial arts world. But he wasn't good enough or strong enough. Finally, he'd ended up here last year, a constable in this little town, the kind of grunt who gets taken out by some shockwave from a fight between the real players. But hey, he was a time traveler, right? He had to have a cheat. Ming focused and called up the system panel. It showed his current stats. Name, Ming, 18 years old. Cultivation, body forging, level 6. Martial arts basics, body forging, minor success, 30%. 3 blades of the wind, mastered, 0%. Traits, defying fate, gold, intelligence, green, martial bones, white, prone to misfortune, white. Life energy, 200. Defying fate, gold, observe the way of heaven, follow the way of man, and go against fate. Intelligence, green, quick-witted and eager to learn, improves cultivation speed, allows you to practice martial arts with half the effort and double the results. Martial bones, white, stronger and healthier than average, but your martial bones are weak. Just ordinary potential on the road of martial arts. Your limits are clear, and it'll be hard to achieve great things. Prone to misfortune, white, you're likely to run into trouble, but you'll get a short streak of good luck after you survive the bad times. Trait levels went from gray, white, green, blue, red, purple, orange, all the way up to gold. They covered everything about a person: talent, understanding, physical build, luck, acquired skills, even personality. Some of these traits were innate, like having a holy body or superhuman strength from birth, but you could also improve your traits through hard work, or even unlock new ones. For example, those rich families could give their kids traits like martial bones, even if they were born with weak constitutions. Then they'd spend a ton of money to make those bones even better. Regular people who spent decades practicing swordsmanship or knife skills could pick up white-level traits like swordsman or knife skills. Basically, proof of how good you were. The original Ming only had one trait, martial bones. The rest had popped up when he took over. He wasn't sure what his golden trait, defying fate, did, but it sounded pretty awesome. The system wasn't complicated. You spent life energy to change your traits, or you could dump a ton of life energy into improving your martial arts skills directly. As long as he had life energy, becoming a top-tier powerhouse wouldn't be hard. Too bad he didn't have enough life energy to do much right now. If I can't get my hands on any life energy today, I might have to take a risk and try to take on a bandit suppression or criminal apprehension mission. Li Ming muttered to himself. Mastering that sword technique had boosted his confidence a little. He'd unlocked the defying fate system the day after he showed up, and he'd been trying like crazy to get life energy ever since. The system said he could only get life energy by interacting with people and making a big impact. Plus, there was a limit to how much life energy you could get from one person, and the amount depended on how strong you both were. Sounded easy, right? Not so much. Lending money, buying someone a meal, getting into a fight, none of that counted. Weirdest thing was, he'd taken a girl out for a night and helped her lose her virginity. Still got nothing. Those measly 200 points of life energy had come from saving some random dude. Now he was trying to figure out the best way to use them. He wasn't sure how much good it would do to improve his traits now, or how much he'd gain by leveling up his martial arts. Li Ming knew the deal. Killing or saving people made a big impact, but saving people was tough, and killing. That was easier said than done. He was a constable, not a criminal. He couldn't just go around killing people. He didn't have any blood feuds or vendettas. Any hard feelings toward his family had faded over the years. He didn't want to end up a wanted man. The great Xian dynasty was no joke. It was a pretty stable place right now, no major rebellions. If he could, he'd rather stay on the right side of the law. More importantly, he wasn't strong enough yet, even among the constables in this little town. Li Ming had been surprised to find out, he was the weakest. But he was also the youngest, and his cultivation was the lowest. This was his prime time for improvement. The future was bright. And being a constable wasn't so bad. It was a steady job. Plus, they had the court's backing and a solid reputation. The Six-Gate headquarters in each state were even staffed with master detectives, including the famous 10 divine detectives. Of course, that was a world away from him. He couldn't even crack the rankings in this town's Six Gates branch. Right now, the emperor was holed up in seclusion, and the prince was running things. The court was full of factions, and there was trouble brewing on the border. Bandits were everywhere, ruining families left and right. Not that the court wasn't trying, but this world was just too big. Even the smallest county in Cangzhou was bigger than the biggest province back in his old life. The Six Gates were everywhere and had tons of manpower, but their best people were concentrated in Xianxia. Remote places like Cangzhou didn't have that many strong fighters. So, no matter how powerful the court was, it was hard to keep a handle on such a huge area, and most martial artists were the kind who valued loyalty and honor, but didn't care much about the law. Li Ming shook his head, deciding none of this was his problem right now. He was just a small-time constable. He changed into his constable uniform, walked out of his room, and headed toward the Six Gates. Time to go to work. The Six Gates weren't so bad, at least it was a steady job. Work was easy most days, and they had some serious backing. The worst thing about the Six Gates was, if you turned down an assignment, your boss would just take it and make you come along. What if they were after some super dangerous criminal? He'd be the weakest link, the first to go down, but what could he do? It was like in a 5v5 game. Even if you were feeding and lagging, you still had to play as a team. Same deal here. If you were a constable and you didn't help catch the bad guys, you were the bad guy. Chapter 3, Defy Fate. Let me see your limits. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Shui Lao Wu. The name had a nasty ring to it, but the guy himself was surprisingly refined. Dressed in dark clothes, long black hair flowing down his back. Despite the smattering of bloodstains, most people would have bought his story about being a scholar. Just a small-time cop. What a shame. Shui Lao Wu's tone was devoid of remorse. If anything, he sounded calm, muttering to himself. Still, wiping out a whole squad of officers should be enough to get me off the hook, right? That this bust was almost expected, maybe even planned. He'd practically led them here himself. The cops wanted to bag him for a promotion. Well, he wanted to bag them too. Tit for tat, yeah, he'd taken a beating before, but thanks to some crazy luck, he bounced back pretty quick. The lead officer glared at Xue Lao Wu's smug face and barked, "Xue Lao Wu, you're just a low-level Qi practitioner. Don't even think about running. You're just digging your own grave. Challenging the 6 doors. You're asking for it." That the only answer was the glint of a sword slicing through the air. Despite looking like some bookworm, Xue Lao Wu wielded a long sword. He moved with a ferocious, unstoppable force. He weaved through the copse with lightning speed, a one-man wrecking crew. In a heartbeat, 2 more officers were down. Officer XXX dies and gains 100 life points. Officer XXX dies and gains 100 life points. The cops, though shaken by the losses, were pros. No panic, they snapped into formation and formed a defensive line. The lead officer charged forward, blade drawn. Martial arts were ranked from 1st to 9th level, 1st being top dog and 9th the bottom rung. The lower tiers were 9th level body tempering, 8th level Qi training, and 7th level essence condensation. The middle tiers were 6th level golden core, 5th level spirit refinement, and 4th level magical power. The upper echelons, the martial saints, were 3rd level dharma manifestation, 2nd level enlightenment, and 1st level heavenly being. Reaching the mid-tiers made you a master, a big shot in your own right. The top tiers turned you into a national treasure. A martial saint. Officer Sun figured he was 8th level Qi training, same as Xue Lao Wu. Besides, the difference between body tempering and Qi training wasn't that huge. With all these guys backing him up, and Xue Lao Wu still nursing injuries, this fight was in the bag. Li Ming watched Xue Lao Wu and the lead officer go at it, eyes glued to the action, their blows blurred into afterimages. Their blades crackled with Qi energy, the telltale sign of 8th level Qi training. 9th level body tempering was all about physical prowess, but 8th level Qi training unlocked the power of Qi, the key to superhuman abilities. Qi was mysterious stuff. Even basic Qi could amp up attack and defense, and the special types could do some crazy things. Even though they were in the same ballpark, Xue Lao Wu wouldn't dare ambush them solo unless he had something up his sleeve. The lead officer was already sporting a few cuts. Li Ming felt a knot of worry in his stomach. This wasn't going well. This blowhard was always bragging about his family lineage, but he was getting schooled by a bandit. Everyone, pile on. No need to hold back against this scum. The officer growled through clenched teeth. He'd hoped to take down Xue Lao Wu alone and hog all the glory, but the guy was tougher than he thought. Hearing the order, the other officers swarmed and, even surrounded, Xue Lao Wu was holding his own. He shrugged off the lead officer's attacks, and the other cops couldn't even scratch him. Now's my chance. Li Ming had been circling, waiting for an opening. Seeing the lead officer create a split-second advantage, he whipped out his sword. His maxed-out sword skills were fast and deadly. But it was no use. Xue Lao Wu was a seasoned fighter, familiar with these kinds of brawls. Li Ming's surprise attack was a bust. Xue Lao Wu reacted instantly, blocking the blow with a lightning-fast parry. The blades clashed, and an unstoppable force surged up Li Ming's arm. His hand went numb. If he hadn't already been so strong, he would have been disarmed. Li Ming stumbled backward. Xue Lao Wu was gaining momentum. Cops were dropping like flies. The lead officer went pale. He hadn't expected Xue Lao Wu to be this strong. He had been hiding his cultivation level. This guy was definitely not a beginner. He must be on a higher level than me. His swordplay was on another level, and his footwork was just as impressive. How was this guy only at the Qi training level? He was only still standing because of the other officers. Otherwise, he'd be dead already. And what happened to his so-called injuries? Where was the trust? This guy's stronger than me. He's unstoppable. Fall back, I'll cover you. The officer yelled. The remaining officers looked at their leader with awe. For a split second, where'd he go? The lead officer's cowardly retreat shattered his reputation. He went from respected officer to a gutless coward in the blink of an eye. That's it. Scatter. The remaining officers bolted. Xue Lao Wu was relentless. He spun like a tornado of death, for quick strikes turning the fleeing officers into bloody corpses, limbs flying everywhere. Officer XXX died, and gained 100 life energy. Officer XXX died, and gained 100 life energy. Officer Wang Dong died, and gained 100 life energy. The messages kept popping up, filling the screen. Only 2 cops were left standing, the lead officer and Li Ming. Wang Dong was dead, Shui Lao Wu was covered head to toe in blood, his once clean robes now stained crimson. His sword dripped red, but the battle had taken its toll. He was breathing heavily, his old injuries acting up. Still, he glared at the remaining cop and launched himself forward. The long sword arced like a rainbow. The officer wasn't much of a runner, or maybe Shui Lao Wu was just too fast. The sword flashed, 1 strike, and he was down. Had the officer stood and fought, he might have lasted a little longer. Running was exactly what Shui Lao Wu wanted. Officer XXX died and gained 300 life energy. 300 points, he was worth something after all. Looking at Shui Lao Wu's speed, Li Ming gave up on escaping. He had only survived until now for a reason. The guy was toying with him. As for why the deaths of the officers had granted him life energy, the reason was simple. Not long ago, he had traveled through time and wanted to test his strength, so he went to a forest outside the city to find wild animals. He met a wounded man with a handsome appearance and extraordinary momentum. Li Ming hesitated for a moment and chose to throw a few healing pills to help him breathe a sigh of relief. The person he saved was Shui Lao Wu. He gained 200 life energy in the process, but he didn't expect that fate was unpredictable. Maybe rescuing Shui Lao Wu changed everything, so now he has become a witness to the death of their group of constables. In addition, he fought without exerting any effort, which was equivalent to helping the tyrant and killing his colleagues. Li Ming's mind raced. He was just a pawn. A back alley in Qingzhou city. Shui Lao Wu was gasping for air, his chest heaving like a bellows. He'd tapped into a hidden reserve of power to kill the lead officer, which had made his injuries worse. Shui Lao Wu jammed the long sword into the dirt, using it as a crutch. Even at his weakest, he stood tall. His blood-streaked face was oddly striking, a smile played on his lips. "Little officer, you know why I spared you?" "Yeah, because I saved your life." Li Ming's voice was tense. If Shui Lao Wu wanted to let him go, he would have. "Ditch your weapon and take this blood pill, and I'll take you on as my apprentice. If you play your cards right, I might even help you reach Qi training, show you a bigger world. What do you say?" Shui Lao Wu's voice was soft. He thought it was a fair deal. He'd only considered it because he saw something special in Li Ming, plus the whole saving his life thing. Otherwise, he would have chopped his head off. If Li Ming thought he couldn't back it up, he was sorely mistaken. "No thanks." Li Ming's answer was firm. Being an apprentice wasn't all it was cracked up to be. He knew what was really going on. "I saved your life, and you take me in as a dog, right?" At that moment, Li Ming realized the harsh reality of this world. Good intentions don't always pay off. You have to rely on your own fists. Against fate. Level up, show me what you've got. Chapter 2, Item Advancement, Iron Bones. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Inside the 6 gates of Qingzhou city, the police chief looked grim, his expression easing only slightly when he saw the team assembled. Li Ming's squad, excluding the chief, consisted of 10 imposing officers. In this world, the 6 gates, being a major official agency, didn't just take anyone. Recruits needed clean records and martial spirit. Even in this small city, it was better to have no one than to have someone with weak martial arts skills, and the police chief was someone who'd risen through the ranks. Only those with solid cultivation and a proven track record could get the job. Typically, those who became police chiefs were either exceptionally talented or well-connected. Someone like Li Ming, with no backing, might never get the chance. The chief looked at everyone and, stepping forward, unrolled a scroll displaying a man's face and description. "We got a fresh tip from a concerned citizen about Shui Lao Wu, a wanted demonic cult member. We've located his hideout. It's right within our jurisdiction. The guy's not at full strength, so I put myself in charge of the operation. The head constable's taking a personal interest in this. He said whoever captures this criminal will get a major commendation worth 300 taels of silver. Kill him if you have to, but make sure his belongings stay intact." According to the informant, Shui Lao was injured and only at about 10% strength. "This is an easy win for us. Promotion and fortune are within reach. You in?" The chief painted a rosy picture, which immediately piqued everyone's interest. it was usually tough for the officers to earn even a minor commendation. Now, they could get a major one just by taking out one guy. Money talks. For them, a major commendation wasn't just recognition, it could be traded for rare martial arts resources like skills, weapons, or Peiyuan pills. Only the imperial court offered warriors with mediocre talent a chance to access top-tier martial arts resources. Of course, they all knew the chief would ultimately get the lion's share of the credit, but he'd compensate them handsomely. Everyone voiced their eagerness, eyes filled with undisguised greed. Yes. We'll definitely capture bloody old 5. The chief, seeing their excitement, figured he'd pumped them up enough and waved his hand. Let's move out. Li Ming followed the others from the station onto the bluestone pavement. The cold wind hit him, and his feigned enthusiasm evaporated. He hesitated slightly. He thought back to the man in the portrait. Why did he look so familiar? He'd studied the image very closely. The target was at the 8th level of Qi training. Even injured, he'd be dangerous. It was possible he might try to take someone down with him. This mission might lead to riches, but at what cost? Li Ming, who'd been focused on steady growth, suddenly felt anxious. What the hell? His golden finger hadn't even warmed up yet, and he could get sliced up after a bit of bodybuilding, but he couldn't back out. As an officer, he'd enjoyed the perks of comfort and honed his skills. Now, when it was time to fight, he wanted to run. The chief would execute him on the spot before the enemy even got a chance. You bet. Li Ming looked at the varied expressions around him and silently moved to the back of the group. He'd finally remembered his connection to the wanted criminal. All he could say was, "Fate is a trip." These 11 officers made for a pretty intimidating sight. Seeing them, pedestrians quickly ducked back inside to avoid trouble. As they neared the destination, the chief silently raised his arm. Everyone stopped and looked to him for the next order. Several officers were practically vibrating with excitement, completely forgetting the danger and eager to storm the house and capture Xue Laowu. The prospect of promotion and 100 taels of silver was incredibly appealing. The chief eyed the quiet house. The roadside had been cleared of pedestrians, but he still felt uneasy. You, and you, go in first. The chief pointed to the 3 closest officers, wanting them to scout ahead. The rest quietly surrounded the house, not wanting Xue Laowu to escape. As the only Qigong warrior, the chief wasn't about to risk his neck. His motto, "I'll take the credit, you take the fall." The 3 officers' enthusiasm instantly plummeted. What could they do? The boss's orders were law, so they cautiously advanced. One scaled the wall, while the other 2 opened the door. Once inside, they held their breath and scanned the place. Soon, the door opened. One of the officers who'd entered first ran back and yelled. "Captain, it looks like no one's here. Could Xue Laowu have gotten wind of us and bolted?" The chief frowned. "Not sure, but don't let your guard down. Everyone inside, and be careful." With that, the chief gave the order, "Inside." Now, Li Ming had no choice but to follow. He noticed mud smears on the wall, suggesting someone had climbed over. All the doors were open, as if the place had been empty for ages. Contrary to the silence, the interior was a mess. Some officers sighed, while others visibly relaxed, but Li Ming's face darkened. Something was wrong. Very wrong. Earlier, he discreetly asked passers-by, and none had seen anyone fleeing. The marks on the wall looked genuine, but a closer look revealed the mud had hardened, indicating the escape had happened a while ago, or maybe it hadn't happened at all. Li Ming suspected the latter. However, he didn't voice his concerns. It was just a hunch. Instead, Li Ming moved to the back of the group again. "I don't know how deep the water runs in this world, but this time is probably not that simple. Let's improve our strength first." Li Ming focused his mind, and the panel appeared. Entry, fate-defying, gold, intelligence, green, martial bones, white, misfortune, white. He'd been studying his golden finger, though he couldn't determine its origin or anything, but he had developed a basic understanding of how to use it. While his current life energy wasn't enough to directly upgrade martial bones to cyan, it could improve it at the same level, making it a more powerful white entry. The next time he tried to upgrade to cyan, the life energy required would be reduced. However, the exact amount of strength improvement was unknown. That's why he had been hesitant. But if he didn't use it, it might as well turn into a coffin plank, so it wasn't the time to save it. Invest 200 points of life energy. As soon as he thought it, all life energy was gone. A brilliant white light flashed, illuminating the martial bones entry. In the blink of an eye, the martial bones entry seemed to disappear, and a new entry was reborn from the ashes. Although it was still white, its light flickered, showing that it was extraordinary. Iron bone. White bones are like iron, with abundant energy and blood. He is a martial arts seedling. As the iron bone entry changed, Li Ming's body responded immediately. Qi and blood surged, and his body seemed to come to life, almost resisting his control. A painful but exhilarating sensation washed over him. His 204 bones felt like they were being reborn. Whoosh! Within a few breaths, Li Ming's heavy breathing calmed. Fortunately, no one noticed him. No one knew that, in an instant, Li Ming's strength had increased dramatically. There is also a gap even between white tears. The changes in the physical body have also improved in the bodybuilding chapter of the martial arts scripture, and the state has directly reached the 7th level of bodybuilding. In the past few days, he was still hesitating which entry to advance. Today's emergency situation made him make up his mind. In this 9th level body training realm, the physical body is extremely critical. If the physical qualifications were stronger, perhaps the strength would also be greatly improved. Looking at it now, it's really worth it. After all, this iron bone is much stronger than the poor and weak martial bone before, and he has benefited a lot from the increase in physical qualifications, much stronger than he was before. Even among this group of agents, he considers himself to be in the middle of the pack. No one knows the changes in Li's life. At this time, several eager officers were already beginning their search. Li Ming looked at Wang Dong, who was about to follow them. He quickly pulled him back and whispered, "I think bloody old Five is still hiding somewhere, waiting to ambush us. Be careful." With that, he ignored Wang Dong and quietly watched his surroundings. Wang Dong was, like him, an outsider who had joined the Six Gates. He had no backers, and his predecessor had a good relationship with him. Li Ming didn't want him to lose his life for no reason. Whether he listened was up to him. Name, Wang Dong. Realm, 6th level of body forging. Entry, martial bones, white, bravery, white, shortness of breath, gray, impending disaster, gray. Disaster is approaching, gray, the calamity of death is coming, and there is not much time left. Earlier, he suddenly saw the additional entry on Wang Dong's head, reading disaster is imminent. Li Ming realized that this might mean something was going to happen to him, and he realized that the entry could still be used in this way. Wang Dong was surprised by Li Ming's words. Li Ming was usually more reckless than him, so why was he being so cautious now? However, seeing Li Ming's serious face, remembering their friendship, and knowing Li Ming wouldn't want to harm him, he became more cautious, staying close to Li Ming and focusing his attention. Seeing that Wang Dong had listened, Li Ming carefully observed his surroundings, gripping the handle of his blade tighter. Suddenly, a sharp sound cut through the air. It was the sound of something slicing through the air. He looked towards the noise and saw a snow-white longsword, its tip protruding directly from an officer's chest. The sword had pierced straight through, blood dripping from the point. That sword was fast. The officer's expression shifted from excitement to fear, resentment, and then emptiness, until finally, all emotion vanished. The saber he depended on slipped from his hand. Thump. The corpse was dislodged from the sword and fell heavily. The attacker wiped his blood-stained shoes on the grass, looking up at the crowd. He was the wanted criminal, Shuelawu. Help Wang Dong avoid death and gain 100 life points. Captain XXX dies and gains 100 life points. Seeing this, Wang Dong swallowed hard. If Li Ming hadn't stopped him, he might have been the one who died. Chapter 4, Perfect Bodybuilding. I am invincible after practicing Qi. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Name, Li Ming, 18 years old. Cultivation, 7th level of body forging, life energy, 1300.1300 life energy. It was a number Li Ming hadn't dreamed of getting so quickly. This gave him a real chance to turn things around. Martial arts skills were divided into entry level, minor success, major success, and perfection. Most people reached their limit after practicing foundation skills to major success and could start preparing to break through the Qi training stage. Only martial arts geniuses or the children of wealthy families would continue to polish their foundation, as they didn't have to worry about resources for qi training, because Li Ming had previously forged iron bones. His skill had also improved, and the life energy required for adding points had decreased. The body forging chapter of the martial arts classics he learned was a foundation building skill available for free to people in the court. Legend had it that the martial god bestowed it upon the founding emperor of Daxuan. It was easy to pick up, but achieving perfection was tough. Ordinary people might not be able to master it in decades. They said that perfection could grant you rebirth, cleanse your marrow and bones, and bring other great benefits. Someone in Qingzhou city spent 30 years practicing it, only to find his foundation particularly solid, but there seemed to be no other difference. He burst into tears, calling the rumors harmful. Some said it was fate, bestowed by immortals. Others said he hadn't achieved perfection and was just bragging. Opinions varied, and Li Ming didn't know what to believe. He was just a small-time constable. After all, maybe the wealthy families and high-ups in the court knew the secret. For Li Ming, it was simple. It cost 100 life energy to reach major success and 1,000 to reach perfection. It was just a basic practice, and the life energy cost seemed a bit much, but he planned to spend it. Right now, immediate combat power was the most critical thing, accompanied by the consumption of life energy. The Great Xuanwu Sutra body forging chapter, complete. A warm current flowed into his muscles, and his body trembled. Every part of him felt joy as hidden injuries from practicing martial arts day and night healed. Li Ming saw a handsome, ethereal man in white robes holding a scroll, standing next to a man in gorgeous brocade robes, wearing a golden crown and jade belt. The brocade robe was embroidered with lifelike flying dragons. The latter performed a deep bow, respectful. Considering the martial arts classic's origin story, the latter's identity was clear. Li Ming didn't dare imagine who the former might be. Every founding emperor in this world was a powerful supreme martial saint, carrying the aura of a true dragon, standing at the top of the secular world. The only one who could command respect from such a person was probably the legendary martial god. Li Ming didn't have the knowledge to know who exactly that was. After all, this world was huge, and there were probably many martial gods. Back to the point, the perfected martial arts classic enhanced him in every way. He directly reached the great perfection of body forging. Ordinary people needed years of hard work, but Li Ming achieved perfection in an instant. Or maybe he entered the martial arts realm with the perfection of the Great Xuanwu Sutra. There were even more benefits. New entry obtained. Qingmu body, Qing. New entry obtained. Silver bone, Qing. Li Ming didn't have time to read the details. He spent the remaining life energy on swordsmanship, bringing it directly to perfection. Many people his age in this small town trained hard. Most were considered good if they mastered a martial art to minor success. Reaching major success wasn't easy, and his predecessor, Li Ming, wasn't considered smart. He was slow on the uptake. Even after practicing swordsmanship day and night, he only reached minor success. Even after time traveling and still practicing day and night, he only reached great success after enlightenment. Perfection was something a warrior could only dream of, achieved only by the extraordinarily talented or those with destiny on their side. Even many founders of martial arts couldn't reach it. A perfect sword technique would be a huge help to him. Get new entry, sword art, white. Looking at the perfected three-wind swords, Li Ming was flooded with memories of hard work and sweat. He saw a man in a green shirt swinging a sword day and night, 3,000 times a day. Swinging the sword was now muscle memory. Li Ming realized that after perfecting the three-wind swords, each strike would be faster, and each sword's power would double, at least for his current level. The energy drain was huge. With his previous body forging strength, he probably could only manage one perfect three-wind sword strike, but now, he could probably manage 3 or 4 without a problem. He resisted the urge to groan from the changes in his body. This surge of power made him confident. He was invincible below qi training. Above qi training, it depended. That was the situation. Li Ming looked coldly at Shuelaowu, and unsheathed his knife. It was going to be covered in blood. Only one of them would walk away from this. Shuelaowu stood up straighter. He was breathing hard, but clear-headed, showing he'd recovered in a short time. He pulled out his long sword, sneering, "You think you can kill me?" A flash of white light answered him. The blade reflected the sunlight, a cold glint shooting into the sky. The knife was as fast as a meteor. The long sword swung, creating gusts of air. As before, sword met knife, but this time, the knife felt like a mountain pressing down, and the long sword felt like drifting catkins, hard to resist. The advantage was slightly in Li Ming's favor. Li Ming looked at Shui Laowu, who was in disbelief, and said, "The worst decision you ever made was not killing me first. But maybe my life's just better. Or maybe you're just too weak." That the cold light flashed again, the knife cutting through the sky like thunder. "Impossible. You're so ruthless." Shui Laowu went from disbelief to realizing how ruthless Li Ming was. If he had this power, he should have used it earlier. Perhaps Li Ming wasn't his match at his prime, but if Li Ming had shown his strength earlier and teamed up with the constables, he wouldn't have stood a chance. But Shui Laowu wasn't stupid. If Li Ming had displayed this strength earlier, he would have found a way to escape. Li Ming wasn't about to explain that he'd just gotten stronger. Even if he did, the other wouldn't believe it. The fact was, the perfection of the body-forging chapter of the Great Xuanwu Sutra had given Li Ming tangible and intangible benefits. He was one step away from the 8th grade Qi training, and his foundation was extraordinary, comparable to the geniuses from noble families who had been taking medicinal baths and elixirs since childhood. His perfect swordsmanship, combined with his body far beyond ordinary perfected body forging, the power of his first strike was already equivalent to an 8th grade Qi training warrior's attack. And this second strike was even better. It would be hard for anyone to withstand. Shui Laowu was caught off guard by Li Ming's sudden sword strike. He reacted quickly. Despite being exhausted, he gritted his teeth and swung his sword. A mouthful of blood touched the sword, and the blade seemed stained with blood frost. The qi surging and flowing, an endless stream of qi flowed into it. The sword turned blood red. This was Shui Laowu risking his life. Every breath and spurt of blood was shortening his life. He felt that if he didn't fight back, he would actually be killed by a mere body-forging warrior. That was unacceptable. Covered in a layer of qi, the sword was as fast as lightning and caught Li Ming's blade. Boom! Shui Laowu, at the end of his rope, burst out with powerful fighting power. Sword and knife collided. Dang! That even without true qi, Li Ming's blade was powerful. The long sword kept trembling until Shui Laowu staggered back several steps. He spat out a mouthful of old blood, and blood continued to trickle from the corners of his mouth. Shui Laowu was hurting, and so was Li Ming. Shui Laowu's counterattack had been quite damaging. Li Ming's saber wasn't a magic weapon, just a standard-issue constable blade. A finger-long crack had appeared on the sharp edge. Shui Laowu's long sword was already good quality, and protected by his sword qi, so it remained intact. Shui Laowu was in trouble, but his sword was fine. Li Ming was fine, but his saber was in trouble. Puff! Blood and bits of internal organs flew from Shui Laowu's mouth. Killing so many had drained him, and using forbidden techniques had left him on death's doorstep. A damaged saber was no big deal. Strike while the iron is hot. Li Ming took a deep breath, stepped forward, and swung his saber again. Even with the crack, the saber was usable. This third strike would be his best. Even a weaker 8th grade Qi training warrior like the head constable couldn't easily withstand this attack in his prime. The knife swung, creating layers of air, like a hurricane stirring up dust. The air made Shui Laowu's heart and liver break, and his heart was filled with regret. This fight had been a great chance to make a name for himself. He never expected Li Ming to be so strong. Could it be that serious? The exhausted Shui Laowu closed his eyes. Yes, that a deafening voice came from the distance. Chapter 5, Defy Fate and Take It for Yourself. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Let him live. That's all anyone heard. Li Ming wasn't listening. He was determined to kill Shui Laowu. No holding back. Shui Laowu had murdered too many of his brothers and humiliated him at every turn. Why wouldn't he kill him? More importantly, whether Shui Laowu knew his secret or not, letting him live was a risk he couldn't afford. For both personal and professional reasons, Shui Laowu had to die today. The third strike landed without hesitation, shattering Shui Laowu's last hope. His remaining strength was no match for the blade. One clean cut, and it was over. The world knew Shui Laowu as Quick Sword Shui, but today, Li Ming, the body-forging warrior, ended him in Qingshi City. Shao Qing slain. 800 life energy acquired. Name, Shao Qing, aka Shui Laowu. Level, Qi training stage 4. Traits, sword freak, blue, martial talent, white, heartless, white, light-footed, white, short life, gray, frail, gray, inner demons, gray, dot, reverse fate activated. Choose one trait to claim. Take a trait. Li Ming barely had time to register what was happening before he frowned. He realized the person who'd shouted earlier had arrived. He pretended to be winded, panting like he'd given it his all. Then, he turned, he looked at the newcomer in shock. The guy was handsome, with a commanding presence. He looked to be in his 30s, but time had been kind. He just radiated mature charm. Li Ming took in the gold trim on his constable uniform, then it clicked. It was Lin Qianxing, the chief constable of Qingdi city. His panic faded. Lin Qianxing didn't seem upset that Li Ming still had his knife out. He clapped Li Ming hard on the shoulder and said calmly. Relax. I'm not blaming you. Intelligence was bad this time. Too many good men died. Letting him off easy would have been a slap in the face. I was hoping we could torture him a bit, maybe squeeze out some intel, but you finished the job. Consider it a mercy killing. You did good today. Body forging overcoming Qi training deserves a reward. I'll put in a word for you. Go get some rest. See me tomorrow. Lin Qianxing didn't wait for a reply. He started directing the other constables to secure the scene. The fight had left a mess, showing just how brutal it was. Li Ming sighed in relief. Lin Qianxing didn't seem to suspect anything. Looks like he wouldn't need his prepared speech after all. Watching the chief constable's back, Li Ming nodded. People said the chief was approachable and often helped the other constables with their training. Seems they weren't lying. Rumor had it Lin Qianxing was at the 7th grade condensation completion level, almost a grandmaster. That would put him in the top 3 fighters in Qingdi city. Too bad he couldn't see the guy's status panel. He was 2 levels higher. Otherwise, he could know what the chief was thinking. According to the golden finger, Li Ming's power would unlock even more features as he got stronger. It was something to look forward to. Back at home, Li Ming's exhaustion vanished. He felt great. He quickly bolted the door and started counting his winnings. He could claim one of Shui Lao's traits. He was thrilled. The golden finger lived up to the hype, defying fate, changing destiny, omnipotent. Talking to the golden finger, he learned that, when he personally killed someone with a trait, he could choose one and make it his own. Traits also had compatibility. Some could fuse, others conflicted. Forcing a conflict would only hurt him, so, he could also just randomly refine one. Then it hit him. What if he had a bad trait? Could he refine that? Refining gray traits requires life energy, cost increases with cultivation level. Refining white traits or higher grants life energy, based on trait level. Trait upper limit is also a factor. Most traits cannot reach gold. You must discover the potential yourself. Li Ming understood, that kept him from exploiting any loopholes. If he could erase gray traits, he could just find some scrubs and refine away. The system would have a meltdown. The last point was clear too. He had to choose carefully. Some traits might have potential and keep growing, while others were common and capped out. Snapping back to reality, Li Ming looked at the traits he could choose from. 5 in total, 1 blue, 3 white, and 1 gray. He ignored the useless, short life, and martial talent, heartless, white, no sentimentality, kills without hesitation. Light-footed, white, agile and fast. Sword freak, blue, obsessed with swords. Greatly increases sword skill aptitude and understanding. Only, light-footed, and, sword freak, stood out, but he remembered the trait he got from perfecting his sword technique. Blade skills, white, a natural with blades. Improves blade aptitude. Li Ming was unsure. He wanted the blue trait, but, will taking sword freak conflict with blade skills? The two are highly compatible. Fuse for a unique trait. Cost, 200 life energy. Got it, just a money grab. Fuse. Li Ming didn't hesitate. The words highly compatible and unique trait sold him. He knew this was the way. 200 of his 800 life energy vanished. Instantly, Shaoqing's sword freak turned into green light and merged with blade skills, new trait acquired, sword and blade master. Sword and blade, blue proficiency with both swords and blades. Enhances both sword and blade aptitude. Li Ming felt a surge. This time, the sword and blade trait was added, but it didn't physically change him, but he felt the difference. He was even happier when he saw what he got from mastering the martial arts. Green wood body, blue, high potential. Affinity for plants and wood. Improves wood-based skill progression. Silver bone, blue, bones are as strong as silver, blood and qi are powerful. Medium-high bone quality. Improves body forging skill progression. Li Ming knew he was weak in his past life. He joined the constables as a nobody. If he joined a third-rate sect, he'd be a nobody there too. If he had greenwood body, or silver bone, joining a master sect wouldn't be a problem. With effort, he could become a top disciple. With both, he might even have a shot at joining one of the top sections. He had to admit it. The Great Xuanwu Sutra lived up to its reputation as the foundation-building method of the Great Xian. Just completing the body-forging chapter was like being reborn. Of course, Li Ming knew how hard it was to master the body-forging chapter. Usually, it required precious resources, rare herbs, elixirs, etc. He only did it because of his golden finger. It saved him a lot of trouble. Now, Li Ming was confident he could take on Xue Laowu in his prime. Name, Li Ming, 18. Cultivation, body forging, perfected. Martial arts, Great Xuanwu Sutra body forging chapter, perfected. 3 Swords of the Wind, perfected. Traits, defying fate, gold, silver bone, green, intelligence, green, greenwood body, green, sword and blade, green, bad luck, white. Life energy, 600. Murder and arson pay. The old sayings aren't wrong. If he had just stayed in his lane, things wouldn't have exploded like this. It was dangerous, though. If he'd rushed in blindly, he might be dead. High risk, high reward. The trait changes had improved him so much. His muscles and skin were tough, and his bones were hard. It would take a normal person 10 years of training to get these results. Tomorrow, the chief constable would summon him, and that would surely bring more gains. Looking at himself in the mirror, Li Ming sighed. He'd been blessed with a good base to start from, and he'd reached a whole new level. Handsome face, deep, starry eyes, and a green robe gave him a transcendent air. Li Ming opened his door and walked into the yard. He picked up the stone lock and table he used to train. In the past, he needed both hands to lift them, but now he could toss them around. He could even swing the stone table, which weighed hundreds of pounds, like a weapon. The trait changes and cultivation had changed everything. But this was a sudden power boost, and he needed to get used to it, test his strength. He couldn't help but flex. Li Ming, who had been practicing hard, sighed. I know my strength completely now, and I think it is not difficult to fight in the Qi training realm. The life energy required for the golden finger is also hard-earned by myself. So, I still rely on my own efforts and diligence to break through to the great perfection of body forging. That's right, it's me. Chapter 6. There is a powerful person in Cangzhou. His name is Qingdi. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The next morning, Li Ming got ready, dressed smartly, and headed out the door toward the 6 gates, feeling pretty stoked. How was he gonna blow through those 200 taels of silver? What kind of sweet reward should he snag for pulling off such a major win? Lost in his daydream, Li Ming walked through the door. A dude with a real stuck-up vibe, arms crossed, came right at him. When he spotted Li Ming, his eyes lit up, and then he made a point of blocking his path. Nearby, the other constables were watching the drama unfold and whispering to each other. Heard Li Ming somehow reversed his 8th grade Qi training. You think it's true? The chief constable saw it himself. Man. Of course it's true. But seriously, talk about lucky. Those other 10 guys basically did all the work, and he gets all the glory. Unbelievable. I heard Xue Laowu was no ordinary Qi training dude. Even wounded, he'd still kick the butt of any normal bodybuilding warrior. Sounds like young Master Zhao isn't buying it, though. Someone's stealing his thunder, and he wants to put Li Ming in his place. You know Zhao You's always been obsessed with getting all the glory, right? Heard he tries to trade with people for it. Yeah, well, he only bullies regular constables with no connections. The senior guys just ignore him. Name, Zhao Yue, realm, 9th level of bodybuilding, entries, strong bone, white, spear skill, white, fierce and cowardly, gray, weak chi, gray, mean, gray. Li Ming was taken aback by the guy in front of him. Entries, seriously weak, where did this classic small-time villain come from? Then, digging into his memory, he finally recognized him, the spoiled son of the powerful Zhao family in Qingdi city. His family's got tons of condensation realm warriors, and Zhao Yue, being a direct descendant, has high expectations on him. Too bad the kid's a total dud. Even with all the family resources thrown at him, he's still stuck in bodybuilding at 20 years old, but as far as Li Ming could recall, they didn't have any beef, so why was he hassling him now? Then again, at this age, he probably cares way too much about his reputation. Maybe, in Zhao Yue's eyes, Li Ming just stole his spotlight. Li Ming raised an eyebrow, not about to put up with this young master's crap, and tried to walk past him, but Zhao Yue sidestepped him, not wanting a head-on clash. Instead, he flashed a friendly smile and said, defeated an 8th grade Qi training warrior with just the 9th grade bodybuilding realm. That's some serious skill, even here in Qingdi city. I'm impressed. Zhao Yue's words put Li Ming on alert. Why was he suddenly sucking up to him? Sure, he was handsome, but he preferred the ladies. Li Ming raised his lips and asked casually, Mr. Zhao, what brings you here? Zhao Yue chuckled. Nothing much. Just think you're a real talent, brotherly, and was wondering if you'd be interested in joining the Zhao family. Oh. Li Ming looked at Zhao Yue, confused and unmoved. It couldn't be that simple. What value did he even have that would make them target him? More likely, he was just jealous that he'd gotten lucky and snagged all the credit. After all, resources were limited, and once they were used, they were gone. Some rare stuff would be hard to come by around here. In a small town like this, pulling off a big win like that was a rare thing. Normally, the constables would be fighting tooth and nail for it. Don't you know our Zhao family's the top dog in Qingdi city? Zhao Yue said proudly. Aha. And our family's foundations are probably stronger than anyone else's. Okay. Li Ming said flatly. He wasn't from around here and had no clue about the power structure in Qingdi city, even if what he said was true, and the Zhao family was indeed the strongest, so what? The Zhao family wasn't his, this Qingdi city wasn't owned by the Zhao family, either. Zhao Yue saw Li Ming's unimpressed expression and immediately got ticked off. What a thankless jerk, wasn't he? Forcing a smile, he said, if you join the Zhao family, getting into the Qi training realm would be a piece of cake. Most people don't get that kind of chance. And what would I have to give up? Li Ming countered. He wasn't naive enough to think he was getting a free lunch. Zhao Yue said smoothly, just transfer your great merit to me, brotherly. Of course, I'll compensate you. Secretly, he was cursing Li Ming's luck. Why'd he have to get so lucky and stumble into this win? He'd been running around, pulling strings with the Zhao family connections, just to get a few decent merits. And he still needed one more to get what he wanted. Li Ming frowned. He had plans for that merit. How could he just agree to hand it over, especially when he had no clue if the other guy was just blowing smoke? Let me think about it. Hearing Li Ming's vague answer, Zhao Yue scoffed and threatened, you better think carefully, brotherly. If you refuse. Then, he walked away. The impatience he was trying to hide was plain as day. His last sentence was pretty clear. He wanted what he wanted, and he was gonna get it. He thought to himself, did this dude think he was hot stuff just because he offed one Qi training warrior? Several Ningdong realm constables had turned him down before, and now here's this nobody, not even in the Qi training realm, daring to act so high and mighty. Did he think he could just hide behind the 6 gates? How naive. Whatever. Li Ming shrugged and turned towards the chief constable's office. If he were the old him, he might have been a little intimidated by the Zhao family's power. But after taking down Blood Old 5, he'd realized that the weaker you were, the more you'd get pushed around. If you didn't test your limits, you'd never know what you were capable of. He was backed by the court. Sure, he was just a small constable, but with the size of the Zhao family, they could only do shady stuff on the down low. They wouldn't dare come after him openly. The constables who had been gossiping earlier scattered and disappeared. Seeing that the show was over, none of them wanted to get involved. One was a rising star in the Six Gates, and the other was the Zhao family's golden boy. He was a fun person and just wanted to watch fun. Inside the chief constable's office, Lin Qianqing was busy with paperwork. Spotting Li Ming, he immediately put down his documents and praised him. Li Ming, good job. You taking down Xuelaowu, beating the strong when you were the underdog, it's put the Six Gates in a good light. Well done. That Xuelaowu was too arrogant, underestimated you. We uncovered all the info on him, it was basically like capturing him alive. So, you deserve all the credit this time. This is enough to get you promoted to bronze constable. The Six Gates ain't gonna be stingy when it comes to rewarding someone like you. Now that you've perfected your body training, the next step is to nurture Qi seeds, give rise to Qi feelings, open up the Qi Sea, and break through to the 8th grade Qi training realm. So, what's your plan? Li Ming was a little surprised that Lin Qianqing knew so much about his cultivation, but then again, the guy was a powerhouse about to enter the Grandmaster realm, so he didn't think too much about it and said, I'm planning to use all my rewards to help me get into the Qi training realm. Got any advice, Lord Lin? That he didn't know why Lin Qianqing was so high on him and trying to groom him, but he wasn't about to piss him off. Good. Lin Qianqing beamed at Li Ming, well pleased. The reward this time around wasn't cheap. Hundreds of taels of silver was enough for most folks to get rich, get married, have kids, and live without a care. But Li Ming was ready to trade it all for a shot at the Qi training realm. With that kind of mindset, he was sure Li Ming would go far in the martial arts. Yep, that was right, Lin Qianqing was putting his money on Li Ming. He'd seen how he fought Xuelaowu. He patted Li Ming on the shoulder and could tell the kid had strong blood and bones, a sign of perfect body training, and he sensed a special power coming from Li Ming's body. He couldn't help but wonder if Li Ming had some kind of unique constitution. If he kept growing like this, how could Qingshi City even hold him? Lin Qianqing stroked his beard and said, the technique you used for body strengthening, the Great Xuanwu Sutra, was a gift from the immortals. Can't be changed or messed with. It's an awesome foundation building technique. But you can't slack off in the 8th grade Qi training realm. Qi, it's scattered and varied. Some are strong, some are weak. The strong absorb strong Qi, the weak absorb weak Qi. Which kind of person do you want to be? Strong, Li Ming said without hesitation. Alright, the foundation of the 8th grade Qi training realm is tied to your future condensation of Gang and formation of Dan to become a master. So, picking the right Qi is crucial. A lot of regular warriors can't find good Qi species, so they break through directly and absorb whatever spiritual energy they can find, which makes them way weaker than everyone else. They get left behind. There are ways to catch up later, sure, but they cost a fortune. You know why the young master of the Zhao family joined the Six Gates? Li Ming hesitated and guessed, for good Qi. Lin Qianqing nodded. That's right. You should know that even though Cangzhou's considered a lower state, it did produce a powerhouse in the past. His name was Qingdi. Chapter 7 Enjoy life to the fullest. You are listening at novelfull.audio. In the old days, the Qing Emperor ruled everything with his Emu Azure Dragon Qi. He was unmatched and achieved enlightenment through sheer power. Countless warriors still try to emulate him, but sadly, many have forgotten his incredible greatness, and his Emu Azure Dragon Qi. It's easily in the top 10 of all Qi types, but finding that innate Emu Azure Dragon Qi is almost impossible. You could search the entire Daxuan region and probably come up empty. The next best thing is the Emu Qi locked away in our Bluestone City's Six Gates headquarters. Just getting into Qi training with Emu Qi is tough enough. Succeed, and you're looking at a bright future, if you could somehow find Azure Dragon Qi and combine the two. You might actually bring back the glory of the Qing Emperor. Lin Qianqing laid it all out, and Li Ming listened intently, nodding. So, can I use my credits for that? Li Ming asked, hopeful. Lin Qianqing just gave him a look. What do you think? Heh heh. Li Ming was bummed out. He didn't see how he could possibly get his hands on something that valuable with his limited credits. A foundation building item like that wouldn't break the bank, but it definitely wasn't cheap. But I could front the credits for you, Lin Qianqing said slowly, seeing Li Ming's disappointment. You can pay me back later. This kid's got potential, he thought. Asterisk strong chi, good bones. What was he thinking before, star? Master. Li Ming didn't hesitate. He dropped to his knees and kowtowed 3 times. He didn't have anything worth plotting against, and even if he did, he might as well grab the opportunity. With a mentor as powerful as this, the Zhao family wouldn't mess with him so easily, asterisk dodging 10 years of dead ends. No-brainer, star. Hey, hold on. When did I say I was taking you on as a disciple? Lin Qianqing chuckled. He just wanted to see the kid's potential realized, not have him latch onto him like this. Lin Qianqing felt a little conflicted inside. I haven't even reached the Grandmaster level myself. How could I possibly be your master? With your talent, you'd be better off finding a true Grandmaster. He meant it sincerely. Li Ming was just blinded by limited perspective. He still didn't know how big the world really was. In Bluestone City, Lin Qianqing was a big deal. But beyond that? So many powerful people, and such turbulent times. Master's already a master cultivator and you're being so good to me. If I don't honor you as my master, should I call you dad? Li Ming didn't quite finish the thought, but looked up at Lin Qianqing, seeing a smile instead of anger. All right. Lin Qianqing said. But all that teacher nonsense is a little too much. Lin Qianqing helped Li Ming up. Who wouldn't want a future hero on their side? Looking at the handsome, promising young man and thinking of his own useless son made him furious. I was saying earlier. I and my brothers explored the Qing Emperor's relics years ago. We found that the old Qing Emperor's Taoist method, Yi Mu Zhen Gong, was top-notch. Too bad we'd already committed to our own paths, we couldn't switch. Lin Qianqing glanced at Li Ming, seeming to come to a decision. Now, it's perfect for you. Li Ming was ecstatic. Seriously, things just kept getting better and better. In this world, anything called a true skill was out of this world, powerful enough to reach Grandmaster or even Martial Saint levels. Not to mention techniques from the legendary Qing Emperor. Li Ming briefly wondered if his past life had been the other party's illegitimate son. Top-tier skills and chi seeds. Incredibly rare, he never thought such good fortune would fall into his lap, but if he really thought about it, that was unlikely. The old body had also been from the Li family. While it was on a decline, it also came from a respectable background. Let's go to the armory, Lin Qianqing said, happy to have found a mentee. I've taken care of your promotion to bronze agent. I'll just get it all for you along with the Imu Chi. Is that even allowed? Li Ming asked, surprised. The approval process usually took days. And he needed to apply in advance to use his credits. Why wouldn't it be? Lin Qianqing grabbed Li Ming's shoulder and steered him towards the armory. A scrawny old man with a white beard and unassuming appearance sat in front of the door. Name? Realm? Entry? But Li Ming could tell this guy was something special. His chief arresting master was also a question mark, and so was this old man. He had to be at least at the Ninggang level. Otherwise, why would he be guarding the armory? He was probably a stone-cold killer in his prime. The old man smiled. Who's this? It's Mr. Lin. Lin Qianqing pointed at Li Ming. Mr. Wang, this is Li Ming. He's been promoted to bronze agent and he's here to get his Feiyun suit and Feiyun knife. And he's exchanging his credits for Imu Chi. If it's not enough, just take it out of mine. Manager Wang opened his eyes a little wider, looked at Li Ming, and smiled brightly. Oh. Li Xiaoyu wants to use Imu's Qi as a Qi training seed. Good for him. He's worthy of being a genius from our 6 gates. If Li Ming keeps at it, he'll definitely be a name to remember, Lin Qianqing said decisively. It's not just wishful thinking. We'll see, Manager Wang said, giving Li Ming a knowing look and heading into the armory. A moment later, he came out carrying clothes and a knife in his left hand, and a seed in his right. He handed everything to Li Ming, Lin Qianqing explained. This is the Emu seed, which breeds Emu Qi. With the Qi training chapter of the Emu Jingong, you can start your Qi training. And this Feiyin suit is made from the best silk from Yunwu Mountain in Yunzhou, handcrafted by Tiangongfang. The heart-protecting mirror in the chest will protect your heart. The Feiyin knife is made from black iron, forged thousands of times by weaponsmiths from the Divine Weapon Workshop. It's a spiritual weapon-level sword. In this world, weapons and magical items were ranked as sharp weapons, spiritual weapons, and divine weapons. Sharp weapons were just the work of mortals, without grade or level, suitable only for fights between bodybuilding warriors. Spiritual weapons were weapons of entry, ranked from 9th to 1st grade. The Feiyin knife and Feiyin suit were both 9th grade spiritual weapons, which spoke volumes about the court's resources. Even a bronze constable got this kind of treatment. Divine weapons had their own rankings, but Li Ming didn't know much about that. It was way beyond his reach, but everyone knew that even the weakest divine weapon was better than the strongest spiritual weapon. The difference was like that between immortals and mortals. Only immortals could refine divine weapons. In ancient times, they were even called immortal weapons. There was also a special category between spiritual and divine weapons. Once, a Grandmaster-level figure sighed that refining weapons still required cultivation and was immediately dissatisfied. Then, he worked hard and created 7 powerful weapons. Though still weaker than divine weapons, they were far stronger than the top-tier spiritual weapons. He jokingly called them pseudo-divine weapons. A family with a divine weapon could pass it down for generations, untouchable. It meant that they had once produced immortals. Such a family had a strong foundation. Even if they were falling from grace, they were still a top power. When they faced destruction, they could usually bring out the divine weapon and let a martial saint-level expert use it, turning the situation around. If one of those families had someone who could make the divine weapon recognize him as its master, they were guaranteed prosperity. Daxuan was able to claim the throne because they had a divine weapon. I got you leave. Go back and study the Emu Jingong and the Emu Qi. If you're nervous about the breakthrough, come find me. I'll tell you more then. Lin Qianqing pulled a secret book out of nowhere, handed it to Li Ming, and turned to leave with a cool wave. Li Ming flipped through it and saw that the skill only covered the middle 3rd grade, but it was enough for him to study for a while. Li Ming left the 6 gates immediately, ready to start planning his future, killing Blood Old 5 and getting recognized by important people. Life was good. This was how it was supposed to be. Full of challenges and excitement. You've got to live life to the fullest, Li Ming thought. Don't let the golden cup face the moon empty. Walking through the streets of Qingdi City, Li Ming looked at the passers-by, looking for interesting entries. He was really enjoying this. Killing enemies in one day is better than training for a year. Too bad there wasn't a chosen one running around in this small town. There was no point trying to force this. How big was the human realm? How big was the great mystery? Even just Cangzhou held billions of people. What were the odds of running into a person of destiny? I thought I was the main character and would find some unbelievably talented beggar or something. I was thinking too much. Lost in thought, Li Ming stopped in front of a restaurant. He'd eaten plenty of snacks and street food on the way, but it wasn't enough. He'd have a full meal at this restaurant, then go home, study the skill, and start training his Qi. You couldn't just make something out of nothing. Breaking through realms still took work. The waiter was a sharp kid in his 20s, he smiled when he saw Li Ming. Long time no see, Brother Ming. Li Ming waved a hand and vaguely remembered who this guy was. This waiter was named Xiaoqi. He came from a poor family and wasn't that good at martial arts, so he'd started working early to make money for his family. His predecessor had occasionally eaten here, and he'd always serve him. He was smart and a smooth talker, but also serious about his work, so the owner liked him. How've you been? Brother Li Ming, you wouldn't believe it. A few months ago, a bunch of weird things happened in the outer city. People kept disappearing for no reason, Xiaoqi said, looking troubled. It's better this month, but I was so scared I didn't dare go home for a while. Li Ming's past self had never extorted vendors or exploited the people, he'd been well liked by his neighbors, so, Ji Xiaoqi wasn't holding anything back. He was telling him everything. Missing persons. Li Ming raised an eyebrow, remembering some of the cases. Over the years, there had been a lot of missing files and violent deaths. Even when the cases were reported, most ended up unsolved. They said bandits were running wild and targeting lone warriors, like the previous blood bandits and others. They basically took the fall, then the case was closed, and nothing happened. Chief Catcher Lin Xianxia was having a hard time with it, and the bounties on the bandits had been raised. Well, don't go out after dark, Li Ming warned, eyes flashing. Even though the imperial court was powerful, they couldn't control all those martial arts fanatics and demonic villains. They were ruthless and arrogant. Ordinary people were always at risk. They could get slaughtered easily at any time, losing their lives and their money. He went up to the second floor, sat in a quiet corner near the window, and ordered a jar of wine, a big plate of beef, some pork fat, salted duck, goose feet, and a few bowls of rice. He also asked the restaurant to pack some easy-to-store food for him to take home. Soon, the food came out, along with some side dishes. Restaurant owners were always observant. Even though Li Ming was just a catcher, he didn't want to upset him. He needed to protect his business. This was one of the hidden benefits of having government backing. This guy's got the right idea. Li Ming thought. Sir, just let me know if you need anything else. Li Ming took a drink, grabbed a piece of beef, and started eating. Practicing martial arts cost money. That was why regular folks had no hope. Instead of chasing martial arts, they were better off saving up, getting married, and having kids. The Snow Tiger gang is here, move along, folks. Downstairs, someone shouted. Li Ming glanced down at the group of people. They all wore the same uniform with a big white insect embroidered on it. Chapter 8. The evil tiger of the Zhao family comes out to bite people. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The Snow Tiger Gang, a force in Qingdi City, was known for bullying the locals, shaking them down for protection money, and running gambling dens and brothels. With nearly 100 members, they were basically local thugs. Everyone knew they were untouchable thanks to the wealthy Zhao family, the same family as Zhao Yuwei. The Zhaos were deeply rooted in Qingdi City, with fingers in every pie, including government positions, so, unless things got really out of hand, officials would look the other way. It's the way things were, a glimpse of how the world worked. Big families thrived in big cities, and small families scratched out a living in small towns. When Li Ming first came to Qingdi City, he paid the gang off just to keep the peace. But after he joined the Six Gates, the Snow Tiger gang seemed to vanish, never bothering him again. Even some of his neighbors benefited. And because he wasn't hard on the eyes, the busybody next door kept trying to set him up with her daughter. So, when Li Ming saw the Snow Tiger gang collecting their usual dues, he didn't give it much thought. That's just how the world worked. Everyone had their hustle, and it wasn't his problem. He only came to this restaurant once a month, anyway. Why ask for trouble? Thump, thump, thump. Star. 7 or 8 Snow Tiger gang members, each carrying a long knife, stomped up to the second floor. The waiter practically greased his shoes getting out of there. Captain Li. The leader was a mid-level boss in the gang, maybe in his mid-30s, built like a brick house, with thick calluses around his mouth. Li Ming's predecessor had dealt with this guy before. He was the one who came around collecting protection money. Name, Wang Yuan. Realm, Qi training, level 1. Entries, swordsman, white, fierce god, white, blood brave, white, martial bones, white, lackey, gray, Qi and blood imbalance, gray. Lackey, gray. Becoming a lackey means you've lost your nerve and backbone. Qi and blood imbalance, gray. Overdoing physical training is messing with your energy flow. Turns out Wang Yuan was also a swordsman, at the first level of Qi training, but he seemed to be in rough shape. The rest were just basic body-forging grunts. With a quick glance, Li Ming sized them up. Looks like they were here for him. Was Zhao Yuwei getting impatient? Wang Yuan spotted Li Ming right away. He sauntered over, eyes narrowed, hands clasped, smiling like a snake oil salesman. Master Wang. Li Ming returned a fake smile. This wasn't a friendly visit. Just a deputy, can't compare to your genius. Wang Yuan chuckled, acting impressed with Li Ming's success. He probably thought Li Ming would be easier to deal with if he played nice. What brings you here, Hall Master Wang? Li Ming cut through the BS, not in the mood for pleasantries with this thug. Heard Captain Li's been racking up achievements. Body training to chi training, catching the captain's eye. And young Master Zhao just needs a boost. Wondering if Brother Li might want to play ball with him. Name your price, we're all buddies here. Sounded sincere. If you didn't know better, if Li Ming hadn't seen through the act, he might have bought it. Now, he just wanted to laugh. Li Ming kept his head down so no one could see his face. He spoke slowly and deliberately. Sure. Wang Yuan's eyes lit up. How about you give me a magic weapon? Wang Yuan blinked, then his face turned dark. Brother Li, don't be a clown, we're serious here. They knew what magic weapons were. Damn it, if the Zhao family had those, why were they still hustling in Qingdi City? They'd be best friends with a magical weapon family. The other Snow Tiger gang members closed in, their expressions ranging from smirking to bored. They saw Li Ming as a sitting duck. No matter how much they squeezed him, he wouldn't fight back. He was probably too stunned to think straight. Brother Li, no hard feelings. Truth is, I don't want to do this either. One of the goons pulled up a bench from somewhere and wiped it down. Wang Yuan plopped down like he was sitting on a throne, staring at Li Ming and sighing. I know Brother Li's a self-made man. Body training and chi training, a stand-up guy. Maybe you've got a fancy background, a big shot from out of town working his way up. Not easy, I get it. If it were me, I wouldn't want to hand this chance to anyone. But a man's gotta know when to fold. No need to be stubborn. Hall Master Wang was trying to talk him down, making it sound like he was doing Li Ming a favor, almost convincing. Honestly, Wang Yuan wanted to avoid a mess. This guy wasn't an idiot. He survived alone among 11 people, the boss liked him, and he had ties to the court. If things got too ugly, who knew how it would end? Why not pass the buck and find a fall guy? But he had to show up. If he didn't, Wang Yuan's gravy train was about to end. The Zhao family didn't keep disobedient dogs around. Hall Master Wang, your words are as pretty as a song. I'm not exactly asking for your stuff, am I? Li Ming said, his voice low. Look, Brother Li, the world's not about fighting and killing, it's about playing the game. I'll cut the crap. The Zhao family wants your achievement. You hand it over, I'll give you 100 taels of silver as a consolation prize. Wang Yuan's face flushed. Li Ming was getting on his nerves. He leaned forward, a hint of menace in his eyes. Li Ming, if you want money or just say it straight. He slammed a tiger-headed saber on the table. The other gang members chimed in, their eyes dark. A heavy pressure filled the room. The Hall Master's right. Why fight a losing battle? Revenge is a dish best served cold. You're just a nobody. What can you do against Mr. Zhao? Offend the Zhao family, and you can kiss your life in Qingdi City goodbye. The noise swelled, as if Li Ming was the one in the wrong. They stood on their moral high ground, preaching peace and quiet, flattery, threats. Everything came out of that pack. Facing the knives and the sneers, the handsome young man slowly raised his head, not afraid, but smiling. His eyes, as bright as stars, met Wang Yuan's. The latter flinched, instinctively wanting to look away. He felt a sudden, irrational sense of danger. Li Ming, listen up. If you get beat half to death today and become useless, who's gonna stick up for you? Don't be foolish. Wang Yuan grabbed his blade and roared at the top of his lungs. Li Ming shook his head, a hint of helplessness at the corner of his mouth. When he crossed over, he inherited a lot of bitter memories from his previous life, and he knew how carefully a weak, ordinary constable had to tread in this world. He was terrified of accidentally offending someone and dying without knowing why. After he crossed over, he couldn't sleep well at night. He was afraid others would see he'd changed. Turns out, nobody gave a damn about him. Chapter 9, Fists Speak. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Li Ming looked genuinely bummed and sighed, seriously. My Six Gates badge doesn't even faze you. You've got some nerve. Wang Yuan sneered, Li kid, nobody else is here. You gonna take that beating later? Who do you think you are, anyway? You think the Six Gates stops turning without you? The Zhao family's got people everywhere in the Six Gates. Li Ming stared at the big guy coldly, his face blank. It's fine without me, but why are you trying to? Are you provoking me? You're just a bunch of nobodies. You really think you can push me around? At the end of the day, we warriors let our fists do the talking. No sooner were the words out of his mouth, than the two big guys, enraged by Li Ming's arrogance, charged him, ready to rough him up good, but they were dead wrong if they thought they could take Li Ming. It was like a mosquito trying to knock down a tree. Is that all you got? No wonder you're just Zhao family goons. Li Ming tensed his arms. They looked skinny, sure, but they suddenly bulged with power, his muscles like steel cables. It was a terrifying sight. Crash, the sound of furniture breaking and bodies hitting the floor echoed in the room. The two thugs went flying, writhing in pain, their faces contorted. They hit the floor hard, unable to speak. What a freakin' beast. Is this really bodybuilding realm? The goons looked at each other, dumbfounded. They were all bodybuilding realm. What was Li Ming eating for breakfast? This was way too intense. Okay, fine, constables were usually a little tougher than them, but this was ridiculous. How could they possibly win? How dare you? Wang Yuan roared, leaping to his feet with a gust of wind. His right fist crackled with power, the air around it shimmering, a truly terrifying sight. The table between them buckled and shattered under the pressure. Splinters went everywhere. Zhao family breaking air fist. Didn't expect this guy knew how to box, but he's clearly a beginner. Let's see how he holds up against Qi training realm. Li Ming's eyes narrowed. He stepped forward, bringing his arm down like a blade. The force behind it was savage. No less than Wang Yuan's, bang, like a firecracker exploding. The two figures broke apart instantly. Li Ming stood firm, shaking his wrist, not even fazed. His silver bones weren't just for show. Even though he hadn't had them long, he wasn't afraid of a straight-up fight. In fact, he was enjoying this. That's a tough body. Even stronger than me. A Qi training warrior. Wang Yuan stumbled, almost falling. He clutched his right arm with his left, which was completely numb. One blow, and he'd already taken a beating. That powerful punch was Qigong martial arts. He'd wanted to cripple Li Ming, but instead, he was the one who couldn't feel his arm. Tricky stuff. What are you guys waiting for? Get him. Wang Yuan was starting to panic. He was no match for Li Ming. Then, he remembered something and yelled. The room was small, and 2 or 3 goons crowded around Li Ming at once. All of them were at the bodybuilding level, strong as oxen. Wang Yuan had hand-picked them. They were street fighters, at their best in tight quarters. Even if Li Ming was tough, he'd get tired eventually. Unless you become a master martial saint, you will fall in the army of mortals. The main army in this world is the Taoist soldiers, who use special resonance martial arts, plus spiritual weapons and armor, and cooperate with good martial arts cultivation. The superior Taoist soldiers are hard to beat, even the martial saints. I'll take you all on. Li Ming grinned, getting into a fighting stance. He knew a lot of things, but they were unrefined and didn't show up on his status panel. He knew basic grappling and close combat, but with his current strength, that was enough. Li Ming attacked first. He was lightning fast, his fingers curled like eagle claws, grabbing one of the men's arms and squeezing. Like a hungry tiger, he struck without warning, twisting and tearing. The big guy's right arm twisted like a pretzel. He spun in the air. It wasn't exactly skillful, but it packed a punch. That's the magic of brute strength. The big guy hit the ground, screaming in agony. His arm was gone. Li Ming kicked him again, and the impact could be heard throughout the room. Bro. Seeing the carnage, another goon charged, roaring with rage. Li Ming swatted him away with a palm strike. The guy's chest caved in, and he slammed against a beam. The whole building shook. Everyone was stunned. Another good fighter, dead or alive, the young man was unstoppable, like a god. Who's next? Li Ming had crippled 2 men with 2 moves, venting his anger. His dark eyes scanned the remaining goons, who'd already backed away. They were terrified, their legs shaking. 2 fists can't beat 4 hands, guys. The gang will pay for any injuries you take today. Wang Yuan hissed. Take Li Ming down, and I'll pay you 100 silver taels. That he hadn't expected Li Ming to be so bold. So good at beating down defenseless men, he'd thought the young man was all talk, like Zhao Yue. He hadn't known Li Ming was so tough. Wang Yuan thought he was dealing with another show-off like Zhao Yue, that this would scare Li Ming to death, but here they were. As soon as Wang Yuan finished speaking, 4 men charged, 100 taels of silver. Money makes the world go round, some guys are always willing to risk it all. 100 taels, Li Ming smirked. So that's what he was worth. He stepped forward, punching like a tiger leaping from the mountains, cracking the sternum of the man in front. Then, he swept his leg. The other 3 fell instantly, their leg bones sounded broken. Trash, life force plus 10. Master Wang, I wonder if that 100 taels will be enough for your boy's hospital bills. Li Ming stood in the middle of the room. His face was like a painting, but to the others, he was a demon. The remaining goons were paralyzed with fear, their legs trembling. They backed away, not daring to come any closer. Master, maybe we should talk this over. One whispered. It wasn't that they were cowards. The guy was just too ruthless. They'd figured Li Ming was a lone wolf, who could be overwhelmed by a pack of dogs. They hadn't figured he wouldn't play by the rules. Six Gates constables were known for being ruthless as eagles and wolves. But this constable? He was at the top of the food chain, untouchable. Wang Yuan shouted angrily, go on. I'll take him myself. The 2 or 3 remaining thugs vanished in an instant, not daring to look back. Wow, he's so mighty in his heart. Ahem. Once everyone else was gone, Wang Yuan smiled nervously. Brotherly, how about we sit down and talk? This wasn't my idea. The Zhao family forced me. They control my whole family. I had no choice. Wang Yuan softened his tone, dropping the threats. He brought up his wife and kids, hoping to get Li Ming to feel sorry for him. Young geniuses like Li Ming were always soft-hearted. He was a Qi training martial artist. If he went all out, he might have a shot, but this Hall master had been kicking around Xianxia city for decades, becoming soft and flexible. Seeing his men spilling blood everywhere, how could he have the heart to risk his own skin? Not to mention, he was already hurt. Another fight, and he might be crippled himself. He'd thought he could scare Li Ming, but it had backfired. Wang Yuan regretted everything. Haha. Li Ming smiled, but said nothing, playing the sympathy card. Did he think Li Ming was naive and easily manipulated? Master Wang, do you know the penalty for attacking a constable? Or for gathering a mob to smash and cause trouble? Li Ming's eyes hardened. Every word hit Wang Yuan like a hammer. Wang will pay for all the damage here. I ruined Master Li's good time. I deserve to die. Wang Yuan will make it up to you. Wang Yuan was pale, wiping the sweat from his brow. Private fights were common in this world. Martial artists had tempers and would fight over anything, but gathering a crowd to attack someone in the court was no small crime. If they'd won, Li Ming would have surrendered. Everyone would be happy, and they'd have done their master a favor. Li Ming wasn't as weak as he'd heard. He was strong and brave. Now, they were screwed. They weren't exactly clean to begin with, and now they'd pissed off the 6 Gates. When the time comes, he will be punished for multiple crimes and sent to prison. When the time comes, he will be punished for multiple crimes and sent to prison, unless the Zhao family rescued him, but he'd screwed up too badly. He wasn't even worth saving. The master wouldn't die for a waste. Chapter 10, Master Wang has an adventure, so do I. You are listening at novelfull.audio. What's your offer? If I'm not satisfied, this doesn't end here today. Li Ming said, suddenly interested. Talk about perfect timing. Martial arts training eats money. way more than regular stuff. First, Wang Yuan snatched the money pouch from his kid, then pulled out a wad of bills. 200 taels total, a small fortune. Just asking for your kindness, Mr. Li. Li Ming glanced at the bills, clearly seeing the God of Wealth pavilion printed on them. He grinned, took the money, and tucked it inside his jacket. The God of Wealth pavilion? They're a real power. Their bills work everywhere in human lands. Nobody messes with them. You don't have to know the guy to know the money's good. I can go. Hold up, you sure about that? Li Ming interrupted, his voice cold. Who are you sending after me? This. Wang Yuan looked confused. I heard you messed up your body training. No wonder you're not picking a fight. Your body training method, I'm kinda interested. How about you show it to me? Li Ming's voice was soft, but his tone left no room for argument. Wang Yuan's eyes went wide. He kept his failed body training a secret, even from his wife. How did Li Ming know? He swiped the technique from a guy named Yi Setu, some Nanyan Kingdom runaway who said it was his family's secret. Setu used it to pay off gambling debts. It was a pretty complete text, with detailed notes. On the street, this would sell for thousands, but he'd studied it, messed it up, and unbalanced his energy and blood. Was this a free win for Li Ming? Huh? You having second thoughts? Wang Yuan looked like he was shrinking into himself. Li Ming raised his eyebrows, annoyed. Wang Yuan's neck snapped back. His anger washed away like someone threw a bucket of ice water on him. I'll give it to you. I'll give it to you. Wang Yuan's heart felt like it was bleeding. He bowed his head, grinding his teeth. He carefully pulled a clean, neat parchment roll from inside his jacket. You carry that around? Afraid you'll lose it? Li Ming didn't grab it, surprised he'd have something this valuable on him. It threw him off. Swallowing his hate, Wang Yuan offered an explanation. This body training method came from Nanyan Kingdom, home of Buddhist temples. It's based on the insights of some big shot monk. They say you can meditate on it and feel the Buddha's wisdom, clearing your head. Plus, I've done a lot of bad things. If I don't say prayers every day, who knows where I'll end up in my next life. Did he really think he could turn into Buddha that easily? Li Ming shook his head, grabbed his scabbard, and used it to lift the parchment roll. It felt special, high quality. It seemed good. Seeing Li Ming's careful movements, Wang Yuan looked helpless, a bitter smile on his face. I admire your guts, and how careful you are. The Zhao family is going to be a problem for you sooner or later. I gave you the scroll. Can I go now? Li Ming smiled, half amused, stepping closer to Wang Yuan. I settle my debts fairly. This one's cancelled, sure, but... Snap! Li Ming's eyes turned ice cold. He grabbed Wang Yuan's right arm with a sudden force, making his sleeves ripple. His palm shot out like an arrow, slamming into Wang Yuan's chest. The force hit like a cannonball, sending him flying, smashing through a row of tables and chairs. Cough, star. Wang Yuan hit the floor hard, spitting blood, yelling. Li Ming, you're a cheat, you're scum. Li Ming laughed, looking down at Wang Yuan, clutching his chest. I pay back debts, and I pay them back one by one. That was for messing with me. And this kick is for insulting me. He raised a blue boot and stomped down hard. Crack, the clear sound of breaking bones. You, the Zhao family won't let you get away with this. Wang Yuan's face twisted, every feature contorted in pain. His right arm was bent at a weird angle, white bone poking through the flesh, a horror to look at. Don't worry about it. I don't know what the Zhao family will do, but worst comes to worst, I hide behind the 6 gates and don't come out. Li Ming spoke calmly, looking down at the ruined hall master Wang Yuan. I just wonder what your boss will do with you now that you're a useless lapdog. Maybe he'll feel sorry for you, seeing how pathetic you are. Li Ming showed no mercy. Maybe these guys were forced into this, but did they ever think about the people they hurt? If Li Ming weren't strong today, he'd be the one crippled and crying. No one would stand up for him, and he'd have to survive alone. in the gutter, that's how this world worked. In this crazy world, Li Ming used to think everyone was healthy, that long life was normal. Turns out, tons of people were sick, families ruined. Wang Yuan stared at Li Ming, rage burning in his eyes. You're ending my martial arts training. I'll never forgive you. Alright, but I want to see how you are going to fight the Zhao family. As long as you are still in Qingdi city, the Zhao family will always find you. Li Ming cocked his head, ignoring him. Walking down the stairs, he paused, like he remembered something. Oh, yeah, and make sure you cover the restaurant bill. With that, he left, ignoring the trembling waiters cowering in the corner, abolish Wang Yuan and gain 300 life energy. He didn't kill Wang Yuan because, 1, it was public. Murder would give the Zhao family an excuse. 2, Wang Yuan didn't have any good skills to steal. 3, he wanted to show the guy what it felt like to be crippled. As for revenge, well, blindly tolerating just means they'll bully you harder. His old self might have put up with it. Nobody cared about some random constable, and nobody expected the Six Gates bosses to step up. That was just the way it was. A lot of the Six Gates guys were tied to the local families, like the Zhaos. Li Ming was an outsider, so he'd always be left out, but now that he was showing his talent and Lin Xianxia valued him, even the Zhao family couldn't mess with him too obviously. Back at his place, Li Ming thought, was this the power of meeting misfortune? He'd rubbed Zhao Yue the wrong way, and the Zhao family had immediately sicked people on him. He didn't ask for trouble, but trouble found him. Lucky I got a good haul. Worth the fight. Li Ming counted 200 taels of silver, a body refining method, and 400 life energy. As he got stronger, he barely got any life energy from the small fry. Most of it came from crippling Wang Yuan. Tough. If only more guys like that Hall Master Wang showed up. Sitting on the bed, he opened the parchment roll. The front was packed with text, the back a map. Li Ming glanced at the text, closed his eyes, and started reciting silently, trying to memorize it fast. His intelligence skill wasn't just for show. He had it memorized in no time. The picture on the back. He absorbed that in a few glances. He understood a lot. The skill was called Vajra Body. You needed to be Qi training to practice it, and you could train it all the way to condensation realm. It combined internal and external, making the body golden. Master it at the condensation realm, and you'd have master-level physical strength. It was a good lower third-grade body training martial art. Body training methods were already rare, and Buddhist ones were even rarer. No wonder Wang Yuan was so upset, like he was losing a chunk of himself, but it was a steal for Li Ming. He had silver bone. This kind of body training was like giving a tiger wings, but Vajra Body would have to wait. Cultivation was key. He needed to hit the Qi training realm, fast. Looking at the Qi training section of Yi Mu Jingong, there were less than 1,000 words, but they were packed with meaning. Luckily, the booklet had tons of annotations, explaining all the technical terms and giving tons of advice. Without them, anyone else would probably screw it up. 3 hours flew by. Li Ming snapped back to reality when his stomach started growling. I get the basics, and hitting the Qi training stage doesn't seem too hard. Li Ming muttered, holding the Yi Mu seed. Yi Mu Jingong seemed like a perfect fit for his Qingmu body. It must be more compatible and twice the result with half the effort. Was the master seeing his special physique, or was it just destiny? Li Ming was too lazy to overthink it. He was more worried about the Zhao family sending someone else after him. He'd made a big scene this time. Everyone in Qingdi city knew the Snow Tiger Gang, the Zhao family's goons, was led by a condensation realm master. Li Ming probably wouldn't last more than a few moves. He wasn't just being paranoid. The world was dangerous, and the Six Gates badge would only buy him so much time. And I've got to figure out how to get rid of my bad luck. Li Ming mumbled. Had he gone the wrong way? He'd provoked Zhao Yue for no reason, and the Zhao family had sent people after him. This time I had to find a way to get rid of my bad luck. Li Ming muttered to himself.